Hello, what's going on YouTube? This is J Money here, and I'm featuring a deck profile, featuring something a little bit early. I'm featuring Plant FTK, and now considering we don't have Jasmine, nor do we know when its release date will be, it is in fact going to be a prototype, and without Jasmine, there is, little consistency in the deck in terms of consistently accessing things like Evil Thorn, Lone Fire Blossom, and all that other good stuff. And so I'm using it featuring 60 card. Now I haven't tested this deck yet, hence why I said it's a prototype. I haven't had too much time to go to any locals or anything, but that's just just things just going on. But anyway, the reason why I chose 60 card is because without the consistency of Jasmine, bringing the deck a little bit more search power, you would have to play some sort of engine to reliably get 10 plants into the graveyard for your Phoenician Cluster play. And so with that being said, I featured 60 card because Lightsworns is the best way to turbo things to the graveyard. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get started. Of course, we're going to do 3 Lumina because Lumina is the best and it gets you any Lightsworn that's, not an extra deck that you want from the graveyard. And, it's level 3, it's got great synergy with things like Dante and all that stuff if you want to get extra mills. I chose to play Twilight Lumina because, once again, this is a turbo build. You want to turbo your whole deck to the graveyard, and the reason why you want to play these if you're turboing is simply because either 2 Twilight Luminas plus 1 regular Lumina, or 2 regular Luminas plus 1 Twilight Lumina, you can create a massive combo to where you can loop the Luminas over and over again and keep milling cards, because Lumina is a soft once per turn for the Twilight. So as long as you can link away with it, Xyz with it, whatever, bring it back with one of the Luminas that hasn't used their effects, and you can keep resetting the effect and you can mill more cards. And to top that off, we got 2 more Raidens, we got 2 Wolves, because we're not playing like a big Lightsworn engine, and we're ending it off with 1 Minerva. It's also level 3, it's a tuner, and all that good stuff, so, it's pretty good. So with that being said, that's the Lightsworn engine. So now we're going to move on to the plants. For the plants, we got 3 Lone Fire Blossom because it's Lone Fire. Lone Fire is too great. Lone Fire equals literally any plant you want. And now we got 3 Platter Plant Scorpios, 1 Darling Cobra, because they're plants and they get you instant fusion, brilliant fusion, and all the good stuff to further extend plays, which is pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome, and it adds consistency, and it gets things out of the deck at deck thins and everything. 3 Balbaboon because they can turbo out more Balbaboons, and you can also cheat it out in other ways that you wouldn't be able to normally. We got 3 Evil Thorn because Evil Thorn it equals 2 more Evil Thorns. So basically, again, you're trying to turbo out as many plant monsters as possible, because not only that, but they're also level 1s, which really have synergy with other cards in the deck. Next we got World Caraway Champion. It's a level 4, it's a plant. It has synergy with this deck simply for the fact that level 4s are good, Minerva's good, and all that good stuff, and it can get some of those plants out of your hand. And when this hits the field, it's probably going to the graveyard due to a link summon, so sometimes Carrot Weight can get you there. So Glow Bulb, obviously it's Glow Bulb. Spore, sometimes we need to use it out of the graveyard, but most of the time you don't. It's just another target, and it's got synergy with other cards in the deck I'll show you later. And obviously for the, feature of the FTK itself, we have Phoenician Cluster, and since, 60 card, Lightsworn, anything can easily make Curios anyway, it just naturally fits into the deck. I'm just running just a little bit more plants than normal. Alright, so now on to some of the miscellaneous stuff. We got, we got 1,000 Blades, a Trick Clown, because Brilliant Fusion with any of the combination of those cards is just, it's astounding. Hat Tricker, because it's a free monster on the board. It's an Earth monster. You can easily make Curios with it. Damage Juggler. And Garnet, of course, because you're playing Brilliant Fusion. We got 2 Fairy Tale Snows. Giant Rex, because Snow is amazing. We're not necessarily playing Light Sworn, we're really going for an FTK, so you don't need 3 Snows for this, but in case your FTK gets stopped, I mean, you can still fuel the graveyard, whatever, set up for next turn. Snow is still one of the best disruptions in the game, because it's, you know, non-stop recurring. Next we got 3 Water True Kings and 1 Wind True King, because the Wind one can search a Water one. And obviously, since you guys have seen this, that obviously means I'm playing Dragonic Diagram, which is definitely correct. And then to top off the monsters, we got 3 Gammas and a Driver, because you're playing 60 card, and hand traps are very effective against all 60 card variants. But at the same time, there are a lot of instances to where you know, it's too juicy not to use an Ash Blossom or a Ghost Ogre on things like Diagram or Baboon or things like that, to where Gamma is live so much more than in other decks. So on to the spells, we're going to have 3 Charge of the Light Brigade, because again it's U-Turbo, that's what you're trying to do. You want to trouble your graveyard, you want to get your Light Sworns, really you want to get 3 of the Luminas, you know, any combination of the 2. So you can do your huge combo with the looping and keep milling cards to the graveyard, and basically have your whole deck in the graveyard is the goal. 2 Diagram and a Terraforming, because you don't want to see more than 3 Diagram or more than 2 Diagram, but also you want to, you know, thin the deck out. You want to try and get those ashes out of the hand, bait them out, and all that stuff. And you know, so you know, Gamma is live in a sense, and it pops the Baboons, which is amazing, which gets 2 more from the deck, and that is definitely 9 times out of 10 was it gonna get ashed. Yeah, 9 times out of 10 your opponent's gonna ash a Baboon and summon 2 more from the deck, and that's why we play Gamma in the main deck. But since it's a 60 card deck, we are not always gonna draw the Gamma, obviously, so I threw 2 Called by the Graves in there as well to help aid in stopping hand traps, because the deck is a little bit bigger. Then we got Brilliant Fusion. I played it 1 copy because really you don't want to see it opening hand. If you play too many copies and you open multiples, or you draw 1 or whatnot, or you build your Garnet or something, and you have 3 dead cards in the deck that could be something else, you could easily draw into it later and all that, and it's useless. So you want to dig it out anyway, because you rather your hand be packed with more monsters, and the only spells you really want in your hand are Diagram, Soul Recharge, and Charge of the Light Brigade. So there's that. We got Foolish Burial, Soul Charge, Monster Reborn, 1 for 1. I threw this in because 1 for 1 can special out Evil Thorn, so you don't have to rely on getting or hard drawing the Lone Fire Blossom to get into it, in a sense. Sometimes I've milled one of the Evil Thorns and I've just Soul Charged and reborn it out, and it still worked out in the end anyway. And obviously, to top off all the spells, what is a 60 card deck without that? Grass looks greener. Grass is just grass, and it's retarded. Grass is amazing. I honestly would not mind Grass going to 3 and Snow going to 1. I honestly would not mind. You know, make 60 card decks a little bit more viable. I mean, we got Curios now, so we can fish Snow from the deck if we wanted to, and sometimes we might even have hit the Snow off the grass anyway. So onto the extra deck. We got a Sylvan Princess Sprite, because we have a lot of level 1 monsters in here. It's also a plant monster, which gives you an extra target, because sometimes you will have 8 or 9, and this just gives you a 10th. And not only that, but it can dig you for some of those power spells from the top of the deck. And sometimes Princess Sprite alone can get you more places. At times I have, been looking for snow, and I've gone through most of my deck, and I've hit a snow off of this. I've hit a glow bulb off of this. I've hit so many amazing. I've hit a trick clown off of that with 1,000 blades in the grave, and it just this card is just amazing. Even if you don't hit a spell or trap, you're probably getting somewhere. Obviously, we're playing Seraphonite because it's Seraphonite and a 60 card deck. Then we got Invoker because Balbaboons can go into this, the Perennial Plants can go into it. Sometimes, if you end up gammaing your opponent off of a diagram, and you put 2 Balbaboons on the board, things I like to do sometimes is overlay into Invoker some 1,000 Blades, and instead of going into Miscellaneous Radiant, I can just use the 1,000 Blades, the Invoker, the Gamma, and the Driver, and go into Saryuja instead, because I have 4 monsters on the board with different names. That's only if I need to fix my hand, but I'll almost always go into Saryuja anyway. It's just a matter of when I decide to go into it. We got Dante because we play all level 3s in here, and we want to turbo the deck out as much as possible. We want to mill. Minerva because, it's any Lightsworn variant deck, any deck that wants to mill that plays level 4 should probably play that anyway. Then we got Calamities because we are playing True King. Sometimes we may not still draw the Call by the Grave or the Gamma to stop certain hand traps, and so at times if you end up keeping those True Kings in your hand rather than putting them back to the deck with Balbaboon, and that's what I like to do sometimes. Sometimes I like to sit there and wait and see how the turn plays out and progresses, and if I'm still not seeing any kind of resistance, I'll put the True Kings back in. But if I do meet some resistance and I can't perform the FDK, I can use the True Kings, the Water True King, blow up, and get another one out of the deck, and end up just going into a Calamities and sitting on it, and basically just stunning my opponent for the entire turn, and basically win the game the next turn. Trishula because it's Trish. That's also why I play Minerva. Minerva also has utility from going from hand or deck to grave, which gets more mills. Milling is just too important in this sort of build. The Lightsworns being plain FDK. So, also Trish is a level 9, ironically, so you can go into this if you actually kept a True King on the board, because sometimes I'll even blow up Balbaboons in hand for True Kings, and we'll probably just link with them, just use them as link fodder. We got Mrs. Radiant, we got 2 Proxy Dragon, because you want generic link 2s that point left and right for co-link firewalls and all that good stuff, so you can bounce as many cards to hand as possible, so you can continue the Lumina combo. We got Underclock Taker because, again, we got the left and right arrows, and sometimes we are going second, so you want to end up having that option. Next, we got a Firewall, because it's Firewall. We got a Curios because it's Curios and you're playing Lightsworn. Skuldred, obviously, because you want to fix your hand. You don't need to all that often because Balbaboons generally do that for you anyway. But, Skuldred gives you more link arrows, so you can spend more extra deck monsters. It gets certain things out of your hand. Sometimes you'll have, like, a Predaplant Scorpio in hand and an Evil Thorn in hand and all that good stuff. And sometimes you only got the option to play one, so Skuldred is good for that reason right there. And last but not least, obviously, finish off the infamous Plant FDK Top Logic Bomber Dragon. First off, I don't understand why Lightsworn players in general, any deck that's playing 60 card with Snow, don't understand why they don't play Top Logic, because if you have a loaded grave plus a Top Logic on board, your opponent will never establish a field ever, period, because as long as every time they put a second monster on the board, you don't know what they're going to go into. You don't know if they're going into a Link, a Synchro, an Xyz. But once the second monster hits the board, just Snow out of the graveyard, summon it under a Top Logic, and nuke the board over and over and over again. You'll learn very quickly that your opponent, that combo is still very, very deadly, and it is actually pretty degenerate because your opponent can't play Yu-Gi-Oh! So onto the side deck. Side decks for 60 card decks are a bit tricky. Simply because they got a lot of power cards and you don't know what to take out and all that good stuff. And also, you don't know what matchups are bad for you, except Dracos, because the floodgates really hurt this deck. And so, that's what we mainly considered when building this side deck. Same thing with Pendulums, because Pendulums can put up a few negates, they can put up an Abyss Dweller if they see you're playing 60 cards. So that can be a problem. But for starters, we're gonna start with the Last Call to the Grave. You know, if we're for game 3s, if we're going first. Then we're going with 2 Magical Spring because it's actually better against Dracos than it is Pendulums, because on standby phase, when they flip Monarch's Erupt and Anti-Spell, and they've already had Heritage on the board with Diagram from the previous turn, you're drawing 4 cards and you're digging for those side deck cards to deal with those set floodgates, some being the Twin Twisters that you want to dig for if you haven't already opened up with it, which is very, very crucial against a lot of decks, because 60 card decks really cannot handle floodgates all that well. Now, on a side note, I was thinking about playing Spirit Masters, simply for the fact that if I don't draw these, or if I'm under an anti-spell, I can like hit a snow or something and banish a Spirit Master and nuke any face-up card I want, which helps dealing with floodgates. In that respect. So, and also, Plant FDK is amazing going first, but against certain matchups going second, it's not the greatest. So, what I decided to do was play an engine. I've decided to play Dino's engine with 2 Conductors, 2 Overtext Codals, or Quatless, whatever you want to call it, 3 Overraptor, and 2 Double Evolution Pill. This is an amazing engine. If your opponent does not see this engine in the main board, they're not going to expect you to play it at all. So when you side this, they're not prepared for a Dino engine in the sideboard, because they think if you're not maining it, you're crazy, or you have another strategy, which I clearly do. It's plants. But sometimes, depending on the certain matchup, I don't want to have the plants, or at least some of the plants going for the FTK, like Balbaboons and all that. It's fine because it still fixes hands, and it still puts more monsters on the board. But things like Evil Thorn and World Carrotway Champion and all that good stuff, those aren't needed. They're just plant targets for the FTK. So, let me know what you guys think about that deck profile. Again, this is a prototype without Jasmine. Obviously, this deck would be much, much different if we had Jasmine. I wouldn't even be playing a Lightsworn based engine, but since we don't have that consistency of Jasmine to get over a Scorpio or a Lone Fire Blossom from the deck anytime you want, this is what we have to work with. You gotta work with another engine to make it consistent, but if you play another engine, you're increasing your deck size, so I just decided 60 card was the best choice. So, let me know what your thoughts are. If there's anything that I could have thrown in the deck to make it better, let me know. Feel free. I really do like plants. I love plants a lot. Not as much as I do machines, but yeah. I know I don't really like FDKs, but since it features plants, I'm just like, you know what? I started playing the deck, and ever since Dandelion kind of got banned, I got discouraged a little bit. But then I went to the drawing board, went to the laboratory, came up with something with the few Sylvans I had, and the yeah, that I had that video up I think a couple months ago, featuring Plant FDK with no Dandelion and all that stuff. And yeah. But until then, this will be what I work with. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. This is J Money, and I am signing out.